So you're trying to learn how to animate in Blender. Blender's great for that. Blender's great for a lot of things, and one of them is animation. Now, we're in the general 3D viewport, and that's cool. This is the default view. That's why this is called the default cube, and we're going to let this sumbitch live. Now, come up here, File, New, 2D Animation. We're going to click that, and boom, right here. Now we are in the 2D viewport, okay? And we're going to use something called a grease pencil. This is where 2D animations come to live. Now, if you are new to the world of 2D animation, I just want to say welcome. It is a wonderful world, and jump right in. The water's fine. There are 2 books that you're going to want to have on your bookshelf. The first is called The Illusion of Life. It's by a couple of Disney animators, Frank Thomas, and Ollie Johnson. And it is awesome. And then there's another one you're going to want on your bookshelf called The Animator's Survival Kit by Richard Williams. Now, Frank and Ollie over at Disney did the absolute classics, right? Snow White and Pinocchio and just, early vintage masterpiece animation. And Richard Williams, he very famously created the characters and was the director of animation for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Your first assignment in 2D animation, your first example, your first project is to make a ball bounce. It's the bouncing ball demo. And the reason I bring up both of these books is because the bouncing ball is in both of these books. And the reason it's in both of them is because you probably heard of the 12 principles of animation. Squash and stretch, timing, slow and slow out, arcing, secondary motion. There's 12 of them. And whole books are written on these 12 principles of animation. And these 12 principles of animation come from The Illusion of Life. So chapter 3 in The Illusion of Life is the principles of animation, is where these 12 principles can be found. And there's a link to both of these books in the description of this video. And the bouncing ball animation is chapter 1 of the Animator's Survival Kit, and the bouncing ball animation is in chapter 3 of The Illusion of Life. And they probably would have started it with chapter 1, but the first few chapters are more about the history of Disney and the history of animation in general, and Steamboat Willie and motion and movement and how making things look like everyday life was not enough. They still looked hard, and we'll get into that. So to make things look as if they had the illusion, to create the illusion of life, hence the title, you need to add 12 things to your animation. And this is where the principles came from. And the first principle is called squash and stretch. Okay? And we're going to do that right now. So we're going to use an image from the Animator Survival Kit. So this is Richard Williams's drawing, okay? And I'm going to leave a link to this in the description as well. So as with all of our early creations, a lot of times people are afraid of the white canvas, the great white canvas, right? It's daunting. It represents unlimited potential because it can be anything, and that's very scary. So to get out of that, we're going to draw from reference. Okay. So I'm going to zoom out with my middle mouse button, just so I can see my whole canvas here. And if I middle mouse click, I'm going to see the 3D interface and viewport. Okay. But from 0, camera view, this is our interface. So in object mode, we're going to hit Shift A, and we're going to add an image. We're going to add a background image. Okay. So then go to wherever you have that image on your machine and load that background image. Okay. And I'm going to scale this up by hitting S. Okay. So we have our image, more or less in place, right? With our stroke selected. We're going to go back in the draw mode, and we're going to, we'll select the line tool down here, and we want to select ink. Up here, we could do a thick marker as well. And I'm just going to, if you hold Shift, you'll make a perfectly straight line. And I'm going to lock that in with Enter. And now here's our ground. Okay? We can move this down a little bit. let's grab on the Z axis, and now we have a ground point, and you can make that any color you want to. Okay. So now let's go to, we want to make sure that we're on frame 1, and in draw mode, let's select the circle tool right here. Okay. We got a solid stroke. Radius at 150, that's huge. I'm going to bring it down to, say, 40. And now let's click. And if I hold Shift, I can make a perfectly sized circle. If I let go of Shift, I'll make an oblong size. And that's still a little thick for my tastes. Some people like them real thick, and that's okay. Not me, I like them lean. Let's go 30. I like my radius to be taut, tight, like a tiger. And there we go. So that's good for me. Now, in the first frame, all I'm going to do is come right up here and click, hold Shift. I'm going to click and drag and hold Shift and just make a circle. Okay, so just like that. And you can see I have these 2 yellow points right here. And these are kind of my drivers. I can move it in any shape I wanted to. Once I have a shape I like, I hit Enter to lock it in. And then in edit mode, I can just edit an object like I normally would. So I'm just going to put it right over that circle. And you can see we're on our way up. Now, we're on frame 1. I'm going to check this out. This is pretty fun. I'm going to move 2 frames up. You got right here. This is my frame number. You see me down here on the bottom? Frame 1, I'm going to move 2 frames because we animate on the 2s. That's just it's just a convention and a fun one between you, me, and the wall. So now I took our circle from the first frame and I put it onto the 3rd frame because we don't animate every frame. We animate every other frame on the 2s. Capiche? Capiche. I'm going to G to grab it, and I'm going to move my circle right here, my ball. I just moved the outline of my ball right here. Okay. Now take a look. Let's do it again. I'm going to move up 2 frames on the 2s, G to grab it, and move it over here like that. You can see we're moving. Up, up, up. Okay. So nothing has really happened with our ball right now, and that's totally fine. That's as expected. But now gravity is going to start doing its thing. And gravity is just the coolest, y'all. F is equal to G, M1, M2 over R2. Newton, man. Newton was just... I love me some Newtan. Get me some Fig Newtons. Funny story about Fig Newton. It's got nothing to do with Isaac Newton. They're named after a city in Massachusetts. Okay, so now gravity is going to start doing its thing. So here, I'm going to zoom in with my middle mouse button. Click and drag, so now we can see up close and personal our frames down here. So I'm going to select these, I'm going to copy them, I'm going to move up 2 frames on the 2s, I'm going to paste these sons of guns, and then in edit mode, I'm just going to grab this, and I could copy and paste just like we're doing, but I want to show you those drivers. So I'm going to Control Z. So now we have nothing on frame 7. I'm going to take my circle tool and I'm just going to click, and let's go. I'm just going to shift about like that. Now you see I got these 2 drivers. I'm going to click this one driver here and grab it like that, and I'm going to click this other driver here and grab it like that. And you can see it's not completely the same shape, which is okay. Let's lock it in with Enter. And then in edit mode, we can rotate it just like we would any other object, okay? So we can scale this down if we need to. You can scale it on axes if you want to scale it on the x-axis like that, just to kind of get the shape we need. And you can see that gravity is starting to stretch our ball, okay? So let's copy these with Control C. We're going to move up 2 frames to animate on the 2s. Control V. And now we're going to grab, now up here, we've grabbed our ball and we're going to rotate a little bit more. We're going to S to scale it because we want to stretch it. And then let's scale it in a little bit. Okay, and then we can rotate around again. And we can squish it in again, rotate it again. And this is the taste, y'all. Okay, got like that. And then let's take this, and you see what we're doing, right? Copy, move up, a couple of keyframes, paste. And then we can take our ball, and now we bring our ball down. And we're going to rotate, and we want contact, okay? They didn't always have contact, but we do want a little contact. You can squish this in on the X if you want as well. Don't have to, but you can. Okay, and now we have stretched our object as much as we can, and we are hitting the ground. So what do you think happens when you hit the ground on impact? We're going to move up 2 frames on the 2s. We're going to Control V, and now we're going to rotate like this. And we're going to G, we're going to grab it with G, and then we're going to squish. And let's scale it on the Z. We're going to squish our ball. Stretch and squish. So here's the we squish on contact. Can't go down any further. And after that, we're going to copy. Here, you know what? I want to copy this one because this frame is closer to this frame. And then I'm going to move up. And on frame 15, paste those sons of guns. Let's rotate this, and we go from squish to stretch. Now we shoot back out. So we came all the way down here. And look, we'll bring this here. We got all the way down. Where did our background go? What? Here, we'll do the background separately. Let's get rid of that guy, and he's back. Let's get rid of that guy. Okay, and we'll bring in a background later. Okay, so we come back to the beginning, and we can see our ball moving through space and time, stretching, hitting the ground, squishing, and going back to stretch again, up to fly through the air with the greatest of ease. Okay, let's go this one. I'm going to copy this guy right here, and then I'm going to move up to frame 17 because we animate on the deuces, y'all. Control V. And now right here, I'm going to take this, grab it, rotate it, maybe scale it like that. This one looks a little fatter, a little plump. Right? We can move it like that. And then maybe bring it in just a scotch. And now you can see it's reshaping itself to original ball size. Okay? And if we want to use the original ball size, well, we got one. Here, we can copy this one and bring it over, or we can just make a new one. Either one, okay? We move up 2 to animate on the 2s, and then let's go to draw mode. And we got our circle selected. So now we do one of these. Just like that. We can take this and we can make it not quite, see I'm using my drivers, we can make it not quite a perfect circle. Interlock it in. And then in edit mode, we can move them. We can move them around, which is super fun. Now, one thing you should notice is that the second bounce never goes as high as the first because there's always a loss. There's always a little bit of a loss of energy, always. So the force on the first hop hits the ground, some energy is lost, disperses, and when it bounces back up, it doesn't have as much energy to get as high up as this one, as the previous bounce, so it doesn't bounce as high, obviously. So now let's take this one right here. Copy that, move up 2 to animate on the 2s, and then we'll move this here. And you can see that it's just a little bit lower. And now we start the downward arc again. We move up to 23 because we're animating on the 2s. We paste these again. Grab this guy, and we got this one right there. And now gravity's about to start doing its business and stretching it out. This is why it's called stretch, squash and stretch. Move it here on 25 to animate on the 2s. Let's kick into draw mode. And let's kick into edit mode and rotate a little bit right there. Maybe scale this out on the X. Maybe scale it in a little bit. Bring that like that. Rotate. Okay, we're starting to stretch out. Gravity's doing its thing. Hashtag Newton. Move up on the 2s. Paste that son of a gun. Grab it, bring it down. Rotate it. Now we've hit the ground. We're done stretching, and we're going to begin the squash. Let's copy this. Move up 2 to animate on the 2s. Paste with Control V. Come up here. Rotate it a little bit. Grab it with G to bring it down. Rotate a little bit. Scale it on the Z axis to get that squishy squish. Once we're done connecting with the ground, we're going to move up 2 more frames. We'll copy this, paste this, we'll grab this up. We'll rotate full, maybe scale it on the X to fatten it up. Coming up here, rotate like that. Now we're shooting out. And now same thing, you can see this, the top of this arc is just a little bit lower than the top of this arc because some energy was lost right here. Okay. Let's move up 2 to animate on the 2s. We'll rotate over. You can see we might need to shrink this down. So let's shrink this on the X a little bit. And then maybe a blunt scale. Rotate that. And then let's move up on the 2s again. And we'll make a fresh new circle. We're gonna use the circle tool. And then we're gonna click and drag like that. So we got this one here, like that. And then we got this one here, about like that. And when we hit enter, the previous marks go away, which is totally fine. We're fine with that. We don't mind any of that. And then we'll move up 2 more. And we'll do it again, just because repetition is the mother of skill. So this is a perfect circle. I'm going to click, shift, drag, and lock that in. And then in edit mode, you can see I can grab it and move it anywhere I want. Now, this stops here, which we don't really need to stop. So let's move up 2 and then just grab it and move it off screen. And you know what? Let's take all of these, select all of them in G and move them 2. Okay. And then kick it back to the first one. And let's have something. Let's have something similar. Kind of entering in. Instead of having the ball start in the middle of space, let's introduce the ball here. Okay. So now let's take a look. So we have our stroke. And if we play this back, I'm just going to hide the empty real quick. Here you go. Okay. So we have 43 frames. Let's make it an even 44. We'll end this here. And then if we kick it back to the beginning, okay, it was just a fun little animation. It's called Squash and Stretch. And if you want to, you can make your squashes much more pronounced, like he's really smashing the ground, and you can make your stretches much more pronounced, like he's really, really stretching, like gravity's crazy. Okay, so now we're going to play around with layers and materials. So come over here to your Properties panel and select this red kind of beach ball looking icon, which is your materials property. And you can see I got a solid stroke, square stroke, solid fill, and a dot stroke. And these are your defaults, okay? So you can click your solid fill, and this is just by default. Blender gives this to you because Blender's amazing, but I don't want my ball to be gray. I want my ball to be red. I want a little red ball like that, okay? So then I'm going to come up here, click on this little loop-de-loo. This is your object data properties, and here are our layers. And layers are the best because just like a fossil record, one goes on top of the other. So if our line layer is on top of our fill layer, then obviously the lines will be above the fills, and everything we fill will be below the lines. Okay, so this is just a way to keep our marks and our drawings and our artistries separate. Okay, so I'm going to have with my fill layer selected and my solid fill stroke ready to roll. I'm going to come over here and go into draw mode, and with my paint bucket, I'm just going to double click, and it fills in my ball, which is great. Now there is something up here called a multi-frame tool, and the multi-frame tool will save you a bunch of time, but all of your drawings need to be connected. And you can see with my onion skin right here, I'm connected to this one, and I'm connected to this one, and I'm connected to this, but I'm not connected right here, so it would only fill in these right here. It would not fill this because it's broken right there, so we would need another one right there. But because repetition is the mother of skill, we're going to do this manually, and I think you should do it manually too. So now we're on keyframe 3. Let's come up here, give it a double click, move up to the next keyframe. That's keyframe 5. Give it a double click, move up, and this one right here, you can select manual keyframes one at a time right here, or you can jump to the next frame where you have a keyframe by clicking this one right there. Give it a double click, next keyframe, double click, next keyframe, double click. This is called, we're filling. So we did our line layer before, our inking, and now we're filling. Okay, so just two different ways to go about it. Okay, and another thing you should know, if our circles weren't completely filled, you can kind of run into some problems, but our circles are completely filled, so we don't have to worry about any problems. Okay, that's fun, that's fun, that's fun, and we're out. 43. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. Okay, so let's bring it in on 43. Okay, so now let's play this back. If we play it back, you can see we've got a bouncing ball. Boop, boop. Something weird happened right there. Look at you. Look at you. So now we got fill, and there's our fill. Okay, so we missed a keyframe. And now we got it. All right, so this is super fun right here. So there's your bouncing ball. Now it's just bouncing on the clear thin air. So let's give it a background. Here, we'll call this line art right here. And now another layer. Let's make another layer, and we'll call it ground. And we'll put the ground underneath all the other layers. So we'll make sure that the ground is the last thing that anybody sees. And we'll put this on, make it a solid stroke. And then same thing, if you hold shift, it makes it a straight line. We'll lock that in, just like that. Oh my goodness, we only put it right there. How silly are we? Let's grab this and bring it over here. And because it's on the first, it'll last all the way through. We weren't on frame 1 when we made our line. So now when we play it, we've got a ball bouncing in space. There you go. This is the squash and stretch. This is the bouncing ball activity. This is this is day 1 2D animation. This is one of the oldest tricks in the books. It's a starting, foundational, fundamental thing that every animator always does, always. And we've taken a ball and we've given it life. Now we're going to do something awesome, because first thing we're going to do is save your work. Okay, so everybody save your work with Control S. So now we have a bouncing ball, but you know what? Let's do something with it, because most of animation is sound. All right, sound is totally overlooked by many people in the world of 2D animation, and that's a cardinal sin. I'd say 80% of animation is sound, right? Like when a piano falls on Bugs Bunny's head, we hear a crash, right? When the Roadrunner speeds away, faster than a speeding bullet, we hear that, right? It's like if it just left, we wouldn't really know how quickly it was going. It just wouldn't be there. But because we hear that sound, it just adds to the animation. So let's add a boink when we hit the ground, right? It'll give our ball some personality. Okay? Before we do anything, let's come up here and hit this new scene button. Okay? At the top you got scene. I'm going to call this bouncing ball, and then I'm going to hit new scene. New copy settings, linked copy, full copy. All right, we got a bouncing ball, full copy. Now, if you don't see video editing workspace right here, you can add it. You can go add video editing, video editing. Okay, so here, let's do that. Add video editing, video editing. If you don't see it, then you can add it with this plus sign, video editing, video editing. So you want to be here. All right, and nobody panic. This is how we render. This is how we get our stuff out, right? It's not enough to make a bouncing ball. We want to make a bouncing ball animation. Well, part of a bouncing ball animation is getting it out to the world so you can put it on, whatever you're on. Reddit, Instagrams, Twitches, the other one, Snaps, any of the social media that you're on and want to share your work to the world. That's just, you go right ahead, baby. I'm not here to judge, even though we do, always. So now we're just looking at blankness, and we're full of existential dread because it's infinitely nothing, and that's just too much for us to handle. So we're gonna hit add scene, and look what we have here. Bouncing ball. Just like that. If we hit play, what do we got? What are we looking at? Look at you. There we go. Our work is, well, it's not done. Our work has only just begun. But you should be seeing on an infinite loop our bouncing ball. So let's add some sound. And I like to use free sounds when I use sound. So everybody, you can go to freesound.org and find a CC0, which means Creative Commons License 0. Anybody can use it, free for anybody in the world to use, no rights, no royalties, no copyrights, none of that noise, and you can use it. I'm going to leave a link in the description. So once you have a sound, Shift A, add sound, go to wherever you have it on your desktop and select it. Okay, now I've added my sound to my animation, which is great, but what's kind of hard is that I can't really see it very much. So I want to display the waveform. Now, there you go. That's what I'm looking for. Now it's going to tell me where the spike is. So I can line this up. And that's super loud. So I'm going to bring it down to, 0.3, 0.4. So now I want to match it up. Beep, beep. Boom. Right there. And you can shorten this up because it obviously doesn't really make a noise right there. And then I want to bring it again. There's the stretch, there's the squash, and we'll hit like that. Okay. So we're gonna Shift D to duplicate our sound, and we'll just bring it there, bring that in, and then it shoots off like that. So now when we play it, you get a fun little noise. So now our bounce has some character to it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we do the bouncing ball animation with some sound. So to output this, pretty easy. Just come right up here to Output Properties, select Output Properties, select that. Now, if you have PNG selected, this will output every individual frame as a PNG file. You don't want that at all. And then you want MPEG video right there. Color management, this is the default's fine. Encoding, Matroska is an MKV file. That's a Russian video format. we want MPEG 4. If you want the MP4, that's this one. H.264 is a type of compression. That's fine. You can go medium quality. It's not really going to matter because we're dealing with an animation. Just keep in mind, the higher quality you go, that'll affect the size of your output. Audio codec, super important. If you have no codec, if you have no audio selected, you're not going to output any audio. But we want audio because we want to hear the boings, y'all. So we want AAC. We select AAC, Alpha Alpha Charlie. And now we're good to go. Everything else, just leave it default. You're good to go. When we come up here and hit Render Animation. Now right here, we're zipping through. We're rendering the animation. Almost done. Takes, I don't know, what that take, 20 seconds? Okay, and let's go to the final video, and there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you make a bouncing ball animation in Blender using grease pencil. One thing I want you to consider, so you're where to go from here, what to do next from here, and your next assignment is to do this without the training wheels. Okay, so make another bouncing ball animation, but don't use a background image. Do it on your own. So play around with the stretch, play around with the squash. Put the ball in a fun scenario, like maybe have the ball bouncing down a flight of stairs, or maybe going back into space and then coming forward into space, or play around with your own colors, give it a background, put it in a world, but do something on your own without the use of training wheels. To really drive home what you have just learned. So I hope you found value in this. And if you have any questions, comments, or requests for clarification, give me a call, send me a note, and we'll go from there. And I'll see you in the next one.